Hey folks, Invest IQ here with investing ideas, earnings, picks, and options plays. And today we're going to look at how to build your edge to play the earnings pop. So we're going to look at how do you build a strategy and how do you build a workflow to play earnings. So we're going to take a look at the Earnings IQ dashboard. So this is available to everybody free. Go to apps.investiq.ca/earnings IQ free. And you can see the link, it's in the description. We also have a mobile version, just shows up a little bit more legibly on your phone or mobile device. We're going to use the desktop version since that's what we're on right now. And we're going to take you through what this dashboard does and how it will give you an edge. Okay, so starting out, you take a look at this and you can kind of see a couple of things are pretty apparent. It's a one-page, simple web page. It shows you, what quarter we're in, what percentage of earnings have been reported. So each one of these blue bars represents earnings that have already gone by, how many we reported on each day. These little green ones here at the end, I don't know if I can get that to come up. There we go. Tells you ones that are still pending. Okay, so market has currently closed for the day today, but those are the days that are left that have some earnings pending. Okay, so if we scroll down a bit, you can also see there's only 48 items that are remaining, so 48 earnings that are remaining on each one of these 5 pages. So you can kind of click in through here. You can also use the filtering bars, right? And this is shown here as well in the 48 earnings. So let's go through and we'll do an example. We already put out a video on Nike, but let's use it as an example to take a look and see how we would build a workflow to examine whether or not we might want to trade a particular symbol. So in this case, we know it's Nike we're searching for. We know they're reporting shortly. I can type in the symbol for Nike and there it is. So here we'll go over what these other options are here. They basically just bring up option chains and charts. Let's take a look at the earnings data here and we'll go through how we build our edge. So in this case, we're taking a look at this chart, and this chart shows us what your equity curve would have looked like if you had bought at the close the day before earnings and sold at the close either 1 day after earnings, 3 days after earnings, or 5 days after earnings. Okay, and that's from whatever the data shows you. So in this case, it's March 2013 all the way up to June of this year, 2022. Okay, in this case, we want to look at the 1 day chart because this one looks the most favorable and sort of the best time frame for Nike. And you can kind of see this is a pretty reasonable looking chart. You would have made 86.45% over those 13 years, and you're only holding. So for example, if you're buying the day before earnings and it was on a Tuesday the 1st, or say Tuesday's the 2nd, Monday's the 1st. So you'd buy it Monday at the close because that's the day before earnings. You'd hold Tuesday, which is the earnings day, and you'd be selling at the close on Wednesday. So really you're holding 2 full days. And that's a pretty decent equity curve for 2 full days for each quarter per year. That's only 8 days per year, which is pretty fantastic. Now, it doesn't tell you what's going to happen in the future, but again, right, we're talking about putting the numbers on our side. And in this case, we can see that the win rate across all of those years was 57%. So that means 57% of the time, you won. You were a winner, right? How much did you win? On average, including wins and losses, 2.34%. Okay, and then if you said that's across wins and losses, but it doesn't mean that the average win or loss was 2.34% as an average of a win or an average of a loss. And we can look at this tab to see what did a win look like or a loss look like. So you can see here an average win was 6.5%. and an average loss was minus 3.6%. And you can see here in smaller writing, there's a little ratio that we put there, 1.83 to 1. So that's what your ratio of wins to losses is. So that's pretty decent with a 57% win rate and a 1.83% ratio of wins to losses, right? You can also take a look at some of the other information we provide here, which is historical data that basically lets you look, and I know while this one doesn't seem to have much of pattern, some of them do. They look like an EKG, and that's when you can spot things like seasonals and take a look to see are seasonals, is the seasonal performance related to to what happens with the stock? And sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, but ultimately you've got to take a look for yourself and see what you see. But in this case, there's a reasonable enough pattern here for the 1 day after, to kind of say, hey, this might look interesting if you did the rest of your analysis. So what is that rest of the analysis? So in this case, you can take a look and see, okay, so this looks good, but as we all know, a rising tide floats all boats, meaning if the market is going down as a whole, it's going to drag a lot of stuff with it, barring some really, really strong news or really strong events. That can be earnings. But even then, that can often tint what happens and what the reaction is to the earnings being reported. So you can use this as a really simple way to get to a quick price quote, or a Yahoo chart that is a little more interactive. But the price quote can give you a couple things. It really just gives you a super fast snapshot. So if I open this, basically what we'll get is a super quick snapshot of this chart. So this is Nike as of September 27th, 2022. And you can kind of get a feel for where the chart is currently in time. And then you can do your technical analysis. You may also have other steps where you say, hey, I look at the fundamentals to some degree because, I'm not going to trade a penny stock or something with not enough liquidity or volume. You can also use this to take a look at the options chain. So in this case, we'll bring it up for Nike. It automatically pops us into NASDAQ to take a look at what the options chains are. So in this case, we actually have to change this to, say, October. Or I guess you could trade September. So these are weeklies, October 7th, 14th. And you can kind of get a feel for, what kind of open interest there is. If I go back to the September 30th, which is in 3 days, you can kind of get a feel for, the at-the-moneys have about 2,000 contracts open interest, and some of the calls below that, so 1449. So there is some volume there. It's not horrible, but again, you can kind of take a look, and we're not going to cover specific option strategies. We're more going to cover how to get your edge. So in this case, the edge is your numbers, using something like Nike. Now there are other different stocks here that are reporting, and we could have looked at and used. I use Nike because it's a pretty well-known stock, but there are other ones in here. A good example might be BlackBerry. We picked Nike because it has some decent history, but you'll see a lot of stocks where they really don't look like they have an edge around reporting cycles, right? So this would be one of them where I would essentially look at this kind of a chart and say, no, none of these look good. No matter what the win rate says. I don't like the pattern historically because there isn't really one except maybe a down pattern, right? So these are the kinds of stocks that I would say, while you might have a catalyst for trading BlackBerry, it's not the numbers from looking at what they historically do after earnings. Or at least not in the 1, 3, and 5 day period, right? So in that case, you kick it, right? There's plenty of other good stocks to look at. You can go and take a look at those. Cintas is another one that has some pretty decent history over time. We did do a video on these guys as well, and in this case, the 5 day looks the best, and that's a pretty decent looking equity curve. It's pretty tight, not a lot of volatility. And I know some folks want volatility, right? But it's a 58% win rate. And in this case, you can see 2.24% on average is the return after 5 days. And you see something else here, which is you've got a relatively monotonic increase in the returns when you've got a longer holding period. So if you bought it the day before earnings, sold it the day after, you'd make 1.28 on average. Hold it for another couple days, you make 1.4. Hold it for another little while longer and you make 2.24. So we like that. We like the fact that it means that there is a history of increase in the 1, 3, and 5 day period across whatever the history period is here. So in this case, 2013 until 2022, right? But that's a quick rundown of what kind of an edge this can provide you. The next steps beyond this, I think, are, looking at things like technical analysis, etc. And that's pretty much it, folks. So if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, leave us some comments, let us know what you think. If you've got a request for a specific symbol, all this stuff is free. You can see where the URL is in the description, and let us know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more of these videos. Thanks for watching, folks.